Hello, and welcome back for another episode of Let's Talk About It. And talk about it we shall. On today's episode of the podcast, I'm bringing you a topic that absolutely terrifies me, which is deepfakes, particularly deepfakes involving your CEO. And if you are a CEO, you're definitely going to want to listen to this one to get the awareness of what's happening with this technology and how it affects you. My guest today is Benny Epand. He is the business director of iZooLogic, a digital risk protection company. But we'll get more into that in the show. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, Benny, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Amy. It's a pleasure.
I would like to ask you first before we actually start, if you can tell me a little bit more about iZooLogic and what the company does.
Sure. iZooLogic is a digital risk protection company. We specialize in protecting our clients from the different digital risks we see online today. We're talking a lot about fraud, about phishing, data theft, or data leakage. We want to be the ones to find that for our clients and then help them mitigate those threats. Usually we'll talk about removing them from the web. So we'll see about today, how we find those different fraudulent activity and then how iZooLogic can help you take them down.
And who is your typical customers? Is it usually like high-powered CEO kind of people or?
So it can be from a CEO from any type of company. Actually, it could be a small manufacturing company. It could be a large bank. It could be today we even see celebrities being attacked if it's, band leaders, heads of states, or politicians, aspiring politicians. The threat actors don't skip anyone, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And I just think with the evolution of phishing and how deepfakes are being involved and more advanced technology that these attackers are having access to, the phishing impersonation attacks of CEOs are becoming wild.
Yeah, it's amazing how deepfake and AI is just making it so much easier for them to access data, access voice. All they need is a few minutes of your last TED Talk or your last visit to some kind of conference, and they use that voice to impersonate the CEO or that person that they are working on. And it sounds like him because they use their own voice, so the voice is not robotic or anything, and it's just getting better every day. Yeah,
That's so, the voice is so crazy because I
yeah,
think when I picture phishing attacks for CEOs impersonation, I envision getting an email and the email is like, "Hey Gord, hey Amy, it's Gord. Just checking in with you. Hope everything's well. I have an urgent request for you. I need you to buy three
yeah.
$50 Xbox gift cards and send them to me immediately." I'm
You have to do it
obviously like,
immediately, right?
yeah.
There's a lot of pressure. Yeah.
I'm
I
like,
hope you got
"Oh
them in the
no,
end.
I need
Yeah.
to send them right away." But those are
Yeah.
obviously very easy to identify as a phishing attack, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think if I got a voice note from Gord, quote
Yeah.
unquote, my CEO, and he was like, "Hey, Amy, I need you to go to the store and grab a bunch of Amazon stuff or whatever it is." I think I would give pause to that for sure if it came from
Right.
his like what I presumed as his real voice. That
Yeah.
would definitely throw me off.
And probably from his WhatsApp, from a WhatsApp account, looking like his name, using his name, his
Hmm.
photo, you know. But you'd be surprised how quick these voice notes come in. It could be on the same day you join the company. You get an email or WhatsApp, and you're the newbie. You don't want to make mistakes, and you get this email or voice note. You'd be scared. You'd be, go ahead, I'll do it, right?
Yeah.
And it happens. These threats happen, and people lose money, and sometimes it's even your own money because you just joined a company today. You don't have a company credit card or access to funds, and we know of quite a few cases where on the first day they've lost money and they've used their own cards. It's a tricky situation to be in.
Yeah. I think too, it's like phishing attacks work. CEO
Yeah,
impressions work. It's even
right.
one level up from what I was describing works.
Yeah,
I remember I was working with a MSP a while back, and one of their clients had a situation where the CEO emailed the accounts payable department and said like, I need you to pay this invoice. And obviously it was a phishing attack, and they paid this $10,000 invoice or something, and all that money was gone.
Yeah.
And so that level of scamming works. So I can only imagine if your accounts receivable department and you receive a voice note saying like, "Hey, we just got this in today, and I need you to pay it right away. Like we're running
Yeah.
under a deadline. I want to buy this right away. Can you just do that?" And then they'd be like, "Cool, sounds good." So how
Sure,
I
maybe they
guess
even did it in a Teams meeting with you, and that's next level stuff, where you're in a Teams meeting and you get that message and you see everyone around the table sitting asking you for things. Why not?
yeah. So I guess do you know what level of input does a hacker require in order to make a fake voice for a CEO impersonation scam?
Yeah, it's just, like we said, it's just go find some YouTube video of someone speaking, get their information off the company website. We all have, usually our CEO's information is on websites, LinkedIn, other, info sites like that. You could use and get so much information about them and use that for the whole operation. The threat actor will work on it for quite some time. It won't be something that they cook up in a few minutes, right? They'll get the voices, they'll get background information, they'll know who to talk to. They might be in the company for a few weeks, a few months, and you won't even know it. And they'll just be watching, who should I speak to? Who should I send out this voice note? Or who should I invite to this meeting, right? You do have pray and spray, right? They'll just send it to all the company. There was just a case a few days ago where a cybersecurity CEO said that his voice was used and they just send a voice note over WhatsApp to all the employees. So imagine that level of work where they've got the phone numbers for everyone, access to their WhatsApp accounts that they could send that. And then the voice note, maybe that was easy if he's a famous CEO, they'll just find his information on YouTube or any other platform and just send it out. And when you do pray and spray, so there's a lot higher chance that someone will fall to it. Maybe
Hmm.
in this case, cybersecurity companies, hopefully everyone is up to date, and the awareness is very important, right? So maybe the wrong company to try it on.
I know. Yeah, I know. That's why when I always get phishing stuff, and I'm like, try harder. This is a cybersecurity company.
But we have the awareness, and it's very funny. But when I see it, I'm like, all right, maybe I have that awareness, maybe you do, but maybe someone just joined or someone in finance, all right, they're working for a cybersecurity company, but that's where it ends, maybe. The
Yeah.
same training that we have that we talk about on a day-to-day basis is not the same they will have. And sadly, that's where companies fail on the human factor.
Yeah. I guess the pray and spray method works well because as soon as the security department gets any kind of whiff of this happening within their environment, they're obviously gonna put out a company-wide note and shut that
Right.
down. But
Right.
so yeah, that does make sense. But I guess I also my question was how much audio input do these people
Yeah.
need in order to make this happen? Like, could they do it with an
It's just a
hour-long
few
interview?
minutes.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
just a few minutes, just 3 minutes is more than enough. Um, especially if you're not doing a video as well, just a voice, then you don't need the lips moving, the lip sync, which is hard to get in deep fakes. You usually see in a deep fake, you could see something funny in the lips, they're not moving right. So with audio, it's just a few minutes, and that's enough to get it. Um, but if the better the audio quality you're getting, the more natural it is. So that would be even better, right? So if someone could capture, they'll take this conversation, for example. I'm not giving anyone ideas, right? But just take this conversation. It's a longer conversation. We're having, a more natural conversation. I'm not giving a speech, right?
Yeah.
And that would sound natural when you get that on the other end, when the AI generator will take it. It'll be pretty good voice to use.
That's crazy. Okay, so now that I have hours and hours and hours of content of my voice out on the
Yeah.
internet, I'm so glad that I became a professional podcaster.
Yeah. One day you'll be a CEO and they'll go back and use it,
They'll
right?
be like,
You'll
right,
say,
no
no, I
problem.
sound so
We
young
got
or
you.
something like that. It'll be
That's
like young
crazy.
Amy voice or
I
something
know.
like that.
Yeah, that's gonna be very interesting. I guess also with the deepfake stuff, is it more than just voice then? Are people actually being able to successfully launch attacks with video as well?
Yeah, it's amazing how easy it is to do that. Just the same, right? The same generators will take that video clip of yours and implant the voice as well and the audio, and it'll sound great over what they're doing. A lot today you see is investment scams use that. So you would see maybe the CEO of a company promoting some kind of, yeah, if you do a crypto investment, people don't always fall for that, but maybe, talking about stocks, maybe talk about what the company's projection is, and then that could affect the investment or, how the stock operates in the stock market. So there's a lot that can be done, and we see this even, head of stock markets and other professionals, their names, they're famous, they're known. It's easy to get that material. Finding our video now would be pretty, they'll have to go to our LinkedIn pages and see the podcast, right? But just taking someone who speaks on a regular basis, if it's on the news or other items, it's so easy to find.
Right. I guess when I am thinking about this with a devil's advocate perspective and I'm a CEO listening to this, I'm gonna
Yeah,
say that I don't really care because my company is small, medium size, and who's gonna
right.
care about me anyways, you know? But I think that's probably the wrong attitude to adopt because you're obviously at risk if you become a CEO, even if you've started the company and it's still small, there's still a lot that can be done and a phishing
Yeah,
attack can have the power to tank your reputation, to tank your business.
right.
So I guess in your opinion, is there a certain point that someone reaches in their career or their business that makes the risk tip over the edge so that it is something that they really need to focus on?
I think from an awareness perspective, all companies should be aware. I've known companies of 5 people. The CEO sits in the same office as the person controlling the invoices, right? But he wasn't in the office that day, and she got an email, and that money was sent, $300,000. It was just sent like that, because everything was done by the book. The email looked like she would get from him from every other transfer, and she just did it. So I don't think there's a size of a company. Okay, if you're just a sole trader, maybe you won't get your own messages, right? But just imagine how easy that was for such a small company. Um, then I think from awareness perspective, we should all be aware that this could happen. Unfortunately, this happens there's also personal scams, right? If you know the abduction scam, when you get that message that someone abducted me or maybe stole my phone, I need money. These scams happen, on a personal level as well. You might get from you're thinking it's a family member or a friend. So this happens on all spectrums of life, right? So why shouldn't it happen to a small company versus a larger company? We're we're all under these threats, right?
Yeah. And I think about in this instance the methods that these hackers are using, which oftentimes is mass volume, right? If you have
Yeah,
a CEO title, they're going to be like, great, let's do this one. And then through that, they're not only impersonating people and trying to get them to pay invoices, but they're also just asking for ransom money, things like this,
yeah,
because they have all this information on them, or they theoretically have this information on them. I'm just thinking
right.
because I was on Reddit this morning and I was reading this thread about a CEO who had gotten an email that said something along the lines of like, we've installed malware on this porn website and we
Yeah,
know that you've been watching and we have video because the malware was able to open your camera. So we've got video of you watching porn and we're going to release that unless you pay us 2000 USD in Bitcoin.
yeah,
Now, 2000 USD is not that much, but if you're spraying that to a bunch of CEOs, you could
yeah,
easily get tens of thousands of dollars, if not more,
yeah,
very quickly, especially when these CEOs are not aware of the risks. And I was reading these threads, and it's kind of in some instances, it seems very obvious that it's a phishing scam because of the
Right.
language they're using. But he was specifically concerned because they had real information in there, like his full name, his address, his one of his clients' information. They said they were going to send that video to
Yeah.
his clients. So they've got real information, and especially when you get your client involved and you realize how much your reputation is at line, then it's very scary. So I think a lot of CEOs maybe are like acting out of fear and just like paying that money.
Right.
But yeah, that's just, I guess it also boils down to having awareness that this is a thing and that you should protect yourself.
Yeah. And you paid once, you might pay again. Why shouldn't they, come back to
Just
you
keep
again and
going.
say, oh, you know what? 2000 didn't do it. We need a bit more, right? And they'll keep asking. And they see you, they've got you, right? What they may call a pig butchering or, any kind of attacks when they continue to utilize their asset and take as much money as possible from them. And yeah, with deepfakes today, they could also create a deepfake video, and that would scare you just as much, right? Even if you know it's fake, but someone else won't, you'll be afraid of your name. Would your other clients want to work with you after that? I know some people who've had to leave their jobs because something like this happened to them, and it was all fake. It's nothing they did. It's not their fault, but that effect is over there. And sometimes just the company can't be associated with that person anymore.
Yeah.
Um, Even when it's fake, go prove it, right?
Yeah. So then what are we supposed to do? How can CEOs protect themselves against these kinds of attacks?
Well, first of all, awareness. Listen to this podcast. I think that would be very helpful. The more we're all aware from all levels of the company, right? We spoke about that. It just could happen to anyone. So when we start with awareness, that's very good, a very means of defense because the human factor is the first one that gets affected over here. But otherwise, I'd always recommend to keep an eye out for these malicious activities. You could actually scan, see if anyone's creating, maybe someone created a LinkedIn page in the name of your CEO. You could find that. There's ways to scan and find those, and then you can have them removed. So you're reducing the risk of such a threat happening. We didn't speak about this much, but the CO scam is not just internal, it's also external, right? If I work with your company and I get a message from your CEO, oh, you owe us money, right? Or we need to, we paid you too much money. Can you transfer the money to this account? That happens. Or other kinds of scams. Just, use your imagination and use it. So you want to make sure that your customers and also your clients, and if you're head of a big firm and you're talking to other people, you want to make sure that no one gets affected by this. Um, for example, I spoke about some band members that we worked with, and they were being impersonated, and that could be anything from tickets to a show to, oh, we're donating for this cause. Can you give $50? And they're like, oh, my favorite band is raising money. I'm going to give that money, and then that money goes nowhere, right? And the band, maybe their reputation is not as harmed, but something bad happened using their name. I'm sure no one will be happy if that happens to you, right?
That's really funny. I'm smiling because I'm like, the band is like, the impersonator is like, hey, can you send $50? Here's my Bitcoin address. And it's like, that's not sus at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
They're like,
As soon
no
as it's
questions here.
Bitcoin,
Let's go. Yeah.
yeah, just be suspicious. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love that how the Bitcoin has been used for everything, right?
Yeah.
But it works, right? It works. So yeah, awareness, and then you could also be very proactive in searching for those impersonators. You could actually find those accounts, and also once you're aware of it, then also fight back. Take down that WhatsApp, contact WhatsApp and
Mhm.
say, hey, this account is using my name, using my profile. Please remove this, or wherever it's happening, take down those email accounts. You would see, Amy from D3 at gmail.com, but you have a D3 email, you don't have a gmail.com, right? So that can be taken care of. So if you proactively looking for the threats and removing them, then you're reducing the risk that that's going to happen to you.
Yeah, for sure. With the awareness piece, if there is one thing that you wish that you could add to modern day phishing education that people get the mandatory cybersecurity training that they receive that I guess addresses, yeah, the modern day risks of phishing, what would that be?
Oh, it's a good question. Um, maybe a real life training, showing them more of these events, maybe even creating the deep fakes yourself. So not just, I know today a lot of it is emails, sending out emails is in phishing training. But if we create that deep fake, which like we heard, it's not so hard, right? So you can do that on your own, use your red team or whatever service you're using to do that training, then maybe create that phishing and then send it to everyone, show them what it could sound like. Besides the tech marvel that we're all seeing today with the rise of these different AI tools, I think it'll be very, it's very powerful when you see that happening in front of your eyes. Um, I've been to quite a few talks and cybersecurity shows where different analysts are showing how they're doing this, and they do it live. They just show you how they just did it. Takes them 10 minutes on stage, and they've got the whole threat is ready.
Yeah, I do wish that there were more phishing, deep fake phishing related education included in phishing education for employees
Yeah,
because it is such a huge risk. And I think a lot of the phishing education that we receive is outdated in that it really just describes those like dumb emails that you're getting, which obviously
right.
hopefully obvious that people are like, oh, this is a deep fake or this is a scam, of course. But
Yeah,
the things that are a little bit more tricky, I think we should get educated on those because it is the then comes down to the awareness piece, right? Like if you're aware of it, then you're going to be proactive about or just aware that you're not going to fall into these scams. But if you have no
right,
idea that deepfake technology exists, which I think, a lot of people who are not working in cybersecurity or tech probably feel that way um, then
right.
like, how would you know?
Yeah, and you would maybe associate it with something else. Even if you did know that there is deep fake, it would be like, oh, someone just, did something to that celebrity, or maybe, maybe did a porn something, deep porn attack or something like that. But they won't they won't imagine it happening to someone like their boss, right? It's like, oh, who's going to impersonate my boss? He's just my boss, right? We're 10 people at this family office, but that's going to happen. And the more the tech advances, it's going to be easier for them to automate this. So imagine if you do a mass phishing attack just by automating, capturing a lot of different people and information. That would be so easy for them to do, and not just one by one, right? And that's going to increase the attacks we're going to see and the sophistication of those attacks as well.
Yeah. What do you think is the success rate of these attacks? Because obviously the volume is huge, right? So
Yeah.
the success rate actually can't be that high.
Right. I don't think the success rate is that high, maybe, but the once you're successful, the
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 damage is
pot is pretty
catastrophic.
high. The
Yeah.
damage is very
Yeah.
high. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen, hundreds of thousands of dollars move in that fake Zoom call that was done. There's quite a few of those going on. I think the awareness is helping because I hear of more cases that have been thwarted. So I'm guessing that awareness is getting out there and the news that these happen really helps. Um, but yeah, maybe, I don't know, I'd say maybe 5%, if I had to give a number,
Yeah.
are working. And then that causes the most damage, right?
Yep.
Um, and we spoke so much about, money transfer and stuff like that, but also ransomware attacks and gaining access to systems can be from
Yeah.
that CEO as well, or from other C-level or directors. Um, those are even more damaging, right? Because you're not just sending money, it's the whole
It's the
company's
whole
on the line.
company that's locked
Yeah.
down until you fix it somehow. Yeah.
And all the
Um,
funds lost, and it's so much work, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So that was great. I learned a lot about new age phishing attacks and I'm sufficiently scared, so that was perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that was the point, right? Just to scare you, and
Yeah. I'm
that's
quitting
our job, right?
podcasting. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we're safe here in our rooms, but yeah,
Yeah.
maybe outside. Yeah.
You never know. Yeah, it was crazy. I put way too much
Yeah.
personal information on the internet, so please don't come for me. Please,
Yeah.
please leave me
Just
alone.
say that a few more times so they could get that intonation correct
I'm
in
just a
their
low
deep fake.
level
Yeah.
employee. Yeah, let's get a clear cut of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. Benny, that was amazing. If we want to find you and what you're working on online, where can we look?
Yeah, so just find us on LinkedIn or our website. We're everywhere, and read our threat advisories about these different attacks. I think hopefully they're very interesting. Yeah, just reach out if you have any questions. Always happy to help.
All right, great. I will put that link in the show notes. Thanks everybody for listening.